Good morning and welcome to another Ministry Minute with Pastor T. Look here, this morning I'm talking about preachers' kids don't always follow in their footsteps. Amen. Look here, today we are in First Samuel chapter 8, and I'm in the New Living Translation Bible, and it reads, as Samuel grew up, he appointed his sons to be judges over Israel. As Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons to be judges over Israel. Joel and Abijah, his oldest sons, held court in Beersheba, but they were not like their father, for they were greedy for money. They accepted bribes and perverted justice. Finally, all the elders of Israel met at Ramah to discuss the matter with Samuel. Look, they told him, you know you are now old and your sons are not like you. Give us a king to judge us like all the other nations. Samuel was displeased with their request and went to the Lord for guidance. Do everything they say to you, the Lord replied, for they are rejecting me, not you. They don't want me to be their king any longer. Amen. Look here now, just because Samuel was a priest, everyone expected when he appointed his kids as judges for them to follow in his footsteps and to love the Lord with their whole heart and to serve God. And yes, Samuel did raise his boys right, but that doesn't mean his boys didn't have a mind of their own. And all too often what happens is when we are preachers and we have a church and people follow us, they look at our offspring, they look at our children, and they think surely they're going to follow in their footsteps. Surely they're going to preach like they mama. They're going to preach like they daddy. Surely they're going to pastor like they mama. They're going to pastor like they daddy. And then when it doesn't happen, the people are displeased. Here it is. Yes, Samuel said sons were doing wrong, and the people brought it to Samuel. But then after they brought it to him, they also said, now give us a king like the other nations have. And it displeased Samuel because all this time you were putting your trust in me and not in God. And that's why God said, Samuel, do what they ask. They not rejecting you, Samuel. They rejected me. They don't want me to be their king anymore. And I just urge people to stop doing yourself a disservice by looking at the preacher's kids. And if the preacher's kids ain't acting right, then you want to serve another God. If the preacher's kids ain't acting right, then you want to go and be with some other wind and doctrine. Let me tell you, the preacher's kids, they are raised right, but they got a mind of their own. And this is the kick. As a preacher, I can only pray for my kids. I can't make them serve the Lord. They got to make that decision for themselves. And we do ourselves a grave disservice when we looking at the preacher's kids, and because they not acting right, and because they not following the Lord, then we don't want to follow the Lord either, because if anybody should follow the Lord, it should be the preacher's kids. Where news flash, the God gave each and every one of us our own mind, our own brain. And so when you deal with people, you deal with human behavior, and preacher's kids got some human behavior going on. And so here it is. Stop thinking that all preachers' kids is going to follow in the footsteps of their parents, because they are not. They have their own testimony to make. They have their own cross to bear. And so this is what was happening. Samuel's sons, they had their own cross to bear. And yes, they were doing wrong, and God was going to deal with them. But Samuel raised them up in the ways of the Lord. And so we can't fault Samuel for his kids' behavior. They got to answer to God for themselves, just like preachers' kids, they got to answer to God for themselves. So on today, stop putting that burden on the preachers' kids to act like their parents. Stop putting that burden on them, and then you missing out, because here it is. They said, you're old now, Samuel, and your sons are not like you. Give us a king to judge us like the other nations have. Give us a king. So that means to tell me all this time you've been putting your trust in man and not in God. We better put our eyes on the right person, which is the Lord, and put our trust in God. Amen. God bless you. I hope you've enjoyed this ministry minute, and I hope you get a preacher's kids a little bit slack. If it be the Lord's will, I'll be back on Sunday with a preach word. You have yourself a blessed day.